Men have many bad habits. Habits holding them back that they desperately need to abandon if men are still to have any hope of improving their lives, and the lives of the male collective. One habit that I want to talk about in this video, and one that is very toxic, is the habit of scapegoating, because I think this is a habit that many men are addicted to. Low-status men seem to engage in pretty vicious scapegoating to boot. The sort of men who desperately need to have an accurate understanding of reality, so they can understand their plight, are in fact the least likely to understand what is going on. Resentment and hostility is getting in the way of rational productive thinking. The problem is, scapegoating is an easy answer for the complicated problems men face, so it therefore kills the creative thought process of men who engage in it. Men face many problems in regards to women and female social dominance, and some of these problems are caused by the behavior of men who pander to women. Tradcons love pandering to women and being in exploitative relationships with them. When this behavior backfires on them, instead of reflecting and coming to some painful truths about their behavior, these tradcons instead scapegoat, and blame women using them and discarding them on the left, the cultural Marxists, or the Jews. Many right-wing men are so stupid and in such a deep state of denial, they believe women are angels who have been brainwashed to turn against them. Easy answers are appealing, and since the people who think they have them, feel satisfied believing that they know the truth, so they will not be motivated to investigate things and learn. Emotional lazy thinking, and going along with the common preconceptions about male and female relationships is not good enough, and will lead to incorrect faulty conclusions. Since so many men engage in scapegoating, that means countless men are being intellectually lazy, and not applying their brain power to the problems men face. For example, men pandering to women, and the toxic gender roles and waste that entails not only harms men, but the whole of society. Scapegoating is a problem in left-wing as well as right-wing circles. Most of my recent videos have been attacking the right, so for once I will show an example of left-wing scapegoating. Also, I want to show how left-wing scapegoating is basically identical to right-wing scapegoating. The behavior is the same. Left-wingers just target different groups with their scapegoating.
Red Spectre. 1 week ago. Some male issues. Military-industrial complex. Mass incarceration. Workplace deaths. Work hours. Housing. Domestic violence and rape. Routine infant genital mutilation. Child custody. Child support. Alimony. Paternity leave. Rape hysteria, including against men of color and immigrant, refugee men. Many more. The majority of these are caused or supported by capitalism. Wealthy men profit from the exploitation of the common man and thus do not share the same interests. Conservative men often think they will become, or already are, wealthy, so they oppose policies to help other men. A pro-male movement must also be anti-capitalist or risk failure, and cucking to the wealthy men who cause the subjugation of the common man.
Red Spectre provides a decent list of men's issues, but then goes off the rails when he tries linking those issues to capitalism. At the very best, only one or two of them can be said to be caused by capitalism, and that is me being generous. Most of the issues are issues men have faced in all types of economic systems, and therefore cannot be blamed on capitalism. Circumcision in fact far predates capitalism, for example. Men working more hours than women is a problem that predates capitalism as well. Workplace deaths have always been a thing too. I am a non-capitalist myself, and I personally believe that capitalism needs replacing with a more rational system, but it will not be replaced effectively as long as left-wingers are in denial about gender dynamics, so at the moment capitalism is the best system we can hope for. Capitalism appeals to right-wing men, because they believe it allows them to hoard resources and pander to women. Women love capitalism, including women who decry it, because the system is perfect for them, as it facilitates consumer culture and male pandering to women. Capitalism doesn't even cause these gender dynamics, it just allows it to play out in a different manner to the less developed economic systems of the past. Men work long hours, work overtime, because women want men to take on burdens and work overtime. Women want higher status men, women deselect lower status men. I have already shown the hours work gap between the genders, and I will show it again here. It is not capitalism that is forcing men to engage in pandering to women. These expectations are enforced by women via threat of sexual deselection. Right-wingers blame the left and Marxists for this. The left just denies this is happening at all. If leftists mention this problem at all, they will frame it in a back-to-front way, and claim the hours work gap is a sign of male privilege. When you try bringing up how gender roles really work, many leftists will call you an incel and tell you to get a job. You see, left-wingers deny that gender roles exist, while at the same time believing in gender roles. Left-wingers believe women are victims and men oppress women. That is in fact a belief in gender roles. Left-wingers deny female hypergamy and consider talking about it misogyny. Men do not want to pander to women to earn a relationship with them. I believe deep down most men resent it. In fact, they are just in deep denial. Men do not want to do it, but are willing to do it as the price they pay. Do not conflate willing to do something with wanting to do something. Oh, sorry, I digressed a little bit there, but I had to explain the context of left-wing thought on gender issues. Anyway, back to Red Spectre's comment. Spectre is scapegoating rich and powerful men for the problems men face. Red Spectre claims that rich powerful men oppose policies that help men. I am sure rich powerful men are not interested in supporting policies that help men, but guess what? They are no different to the vast majority of men in that regard. Left-wing men, right-wing men, they give zero fucks about the welfare of men. To fixate on powerful rich men and blame them for this is the very definition of scapegoating. Most men I talk to, for example, support child support imprisonment, and men being made to pay for kids they do not get to see against their will. Many right-wing men rant and rave about immigrants taking their jobs, but will not dare complain about female-favored affirmative action. Many left-wing and right-wing men will jump on any false accusation bandwagon. Most men love tearing down high-status men who get accused of crimes, and do not wait for any proof to come forward. Powerful men do not benefit from living in a female-centered society. Even rich powerful men have been affected by anti-male hysteria. If you do not believe me, let me show you one example from a video from this channel called Midnight's Edge.
On September 9th of 2018, a long and illustrious career ended when Leslie Moonves stepped down from his positions as the chairman and CEO of the CBS Corporation, and not entirely of his own free will. Moonves first joined CBS back in 1995, then as president of CBS Entertainment. Despite his dislike for Star Trek and all related properties, he did exceedingly well in this position and was promoted time and again in the years that followed. When the Me Too movement first gained momentum, Moonves was extremely supportive and described it as a watershed moment during a November 2017 press conference. He was also a founding member of the Commission on Sexual Harassment and Advancing Equality in the Workplace, which was formed in late 2017 to, quote, tackle the broad culture of abuse and power disparity, end quote. And in January of 2018, CBS released public service announcements concerning how to combat sexual harassment. There were, however, those that thought this might all have been posturing. For decades, there had been rumors about CBS head honcho Les Moonves and his ultimate boss, Viacom chief Sumner Redstone, frequently attending sex parties that would make Caligula blush, and for indulging their appetites outside of such dedicated venues as well. The stories about Sumner Redstone and his sexual escapades are published and well known, but Les Moonves avoided similar public scrutiny until the summer of 2018. Then, more and more women, from interns to other executives, started coming forward with their stories of being sexually harassed and even threatened by Moonves. The oldest of these stories dated back to the 1980s and persisted until recently. This eventually led to Moonves being fired in disgrace, not just for the ever more detailed stories that were increasingly making the rounds in the news headlines, but for misleading the board and trying to cover up his transgressions instead of coming clean about them. Moonves continues to deny all allegations. Without mentioning any of his career highlights, CBS announced that Moonves had left the company and would not receive any of his exit compensation pending the results of the independent investigation into his allegations. Furthermore, the company has named 6 new members of its board of directors and said it would donate $20 million to the organizations that support the Me Too movement and workplace equality for women, a donation that would be deducted from any severance payments that still may be due to Moonves. Pending the outcome of an internal investigation by CBS, if Moonves is cleared of any wrongdoing, he would be owed a severance package of $120 million. According to CNBC, it is still unclear whether that severance package would total more or less than the stated $120 million after the donation. And so, the reign of the man who greenlit and micromanaged Star Trek Discovery came to an end, although that end had nothing to do with Star Trek. That does, however, leave the question, how will the removal of Les Moonves influence Star Trek going forward?
If Les Moonves, the head of CBS, can get attacked by the #MeToo hashtag, and have his severance pay docked pending an investigation, and then given to the #MeToo hashtag, it shows you that even high-status men can get screwed over. I can list countless more examples of rich high-status men getting destroyed by false accusation hysteria. I can also list countless examples of rich high-status men getting screwed over by a divorce. So the claim that capitalism and rich men benefit from the current system of misandry is a false one. Rich men are in the same boat as other men. It is just having status shields men from the effects of misandry a little bit. A man who is rich and has a girl is still most likely in a shitty relationship with a woman who doesn't care about him. A rich man is basically in the same boat relationship-wise as a low-status man in a relationship. It is just the effects of divorce hit low-status men harder, as they have less money. Rich men can still get alienated from their kids, and be emotionally destroyed by a divorce. Most men do not care about misandry, and will carry on taking part in the anti-male system, so long as they feel they have a chance to get the girl. It is not really fair to put all the blame on rich men, for doing something that most men would want to do themselves if they could. The average person is anti-male, that is the bottom line. Let us not beat around the bush and scapegoat a small group of men, and pretend the rich are conspiring against the rest of society to fuck low-status men over. From what I can see, low-status men love fucking each other over to get the girl too. Anyway, let's listen to a bit of the Communist Manifesto, as I want to show you that from the very start Marxism was an anti-male dead end.
Abolition of the family. Even the most radical flare up at this infamous proposal of the communists. On what foundation is the present family, the bourgeois family, based? On capital, on private gain. In its completely developed form, this family exists only among the bourgeoisie. But this state of things finds its complement in the practical absence of the family among the proletarians, and in public prostitution. The bourgeois family will vanish as a matter of course when its complement vanishes, and both will vanish with the vanishing of capital. Do you charge us with wanting to stop the exploitation of children by their parents? To this crime, we plead guilty. But, you say, we destroy the most hallowed of relations, when we replace home education by social. And your education. Is not that also social, and determined by the social conditions under which you educate, by the intervention direct or indirect, of society, by means of schools? The communists have not invented the intervention of society in education, they do but seek to alter the character of that intervention, and to rescue education from the influence of the ruling class. The bourgeois claptrap about the family and education, about the hallowed correlation of parents and child, becomes all the more disgusting, the more, by the action of modern industry, all the family ties among the proletarians are torn asunder, and their children transformed into simple articles of commerce and instruments of labor. But you communists would introduce community of women, screams the bourgeoisie in chorus. The bourgeois sees his wife a mere instrument of production. He hears that the instruments of production are to be exploited in common, and, naturally, can come to no other conclusion that the lot of being common to all will likewise fall to the women. He has not even a suspicion that the real point aimed at is to do away with the status of women as mere instruments of production. For the rest, nothing is more ridiculous than the virtuous indignation of our bourgeois at the community of women which, they pretend, is to be openly and officially established by the communists. The communists have no need to introduce community of women, it has existed almost from time immemorial. Our bourgeois, not content with having wives and daughters of their proletarians at their disposal, not to speak of common prostitutes, take the greatest pleasure in seducing each other's wives. Bourgeois marriage is, in reality, a system of wives in common, and thus, at the most, what the communists might possibly be reproached with is that they desire to introduce, in substitution for a hypocritically concealed, an openly legalized community of women. For the rest, it is self-evident that the abolition of the present system of production must bring with it the abolition of the community of women springing from that system, that is, of prostitution both public and private.
This is basically deranged male feminist babble. Marx claimed that the bourgeois treated women like vehicles of production. Marx also rants against the bourgeois seducing each other's wives, and proletariat women. Marx sounds like a repressed right-wing tradcon right there. Marx believed that abolishing capitalism would lead to a true authentic relationship between men and women, whatever authentic relationship means. Somehow or another capitalism was stopping men and women from truly loving each other. Of course Marx and Engels were in deep denial if they thought that capitalist men were forcing unwilling women to be with them. What would a 19th century woman rather pick? A poor manual laborer or a rich bourgeois? Also, I am paraphrasing from Engels' book The Origin of the Family, Private Property and the State here, but Engels thought classical patriarchy where men could mate guard and pass their property down to their sons was oppression of women. But labeled primitive tribal societies where women could kick men out of their own homes equality. Modern-day Marxists are not much better. At the very best they will pay lip service to disliking identity politics feminism, but then claim MRAs are the same as feminists, and those are the good Marxists. Most Marxists are rabid feminists. I have even been told by Marxists that gender issues have nothing to do with economics. To make this claim is laughable and out of touch with reality. Men gathering resources to bribe women is in fact the core dynamic of all economic systems to have ever existed. If Marxists are so out of touch with such a core issue, that means their foundation is faulty and the rest of their pseudo-scientific philosophy collapses and falls apart. At the end of the day Marxism seems to be nothing more than scapegoating, so it is not much better than right-wing conspiracy thought. Marxism and leftism offers men nothing for the most part. At the best we can steal left-wing ideas for ourselves, as the left has more ideas worth stealing than the right, but the left must be largely rejected as well. The best sort of system that men can support is social democratic systems that have welfare states that look after men. Scapegoating is toxic behavior, and it must not be enabled by pro-male men. If anyone comes into our spaces to scapegoat against capitalism, or the leftists, we must tell them to knock it off or leave. Anyway, that is all for now.